Just want to just honor with the Lord what Jesus has done in Kim's life, and so just open your hearts to her story. So Kim.
Well, hi, good morning. I guess I'm just really grateful that at the birth of our first daughter 19 years ago, my husband and I came to know the Lord and just started this journey with him, and just really pressed in with him to see what he was doing for our family and our marriage, and just starting to give everything over to him. And when our kids were like, 3, 4, and 5, we had the opportunity and we committed to actually church planting in Argentina with our church at that time. And we were going to classes, and we were really set to make this huge transition in our life. And our church actually came to us and said, we do not want church planters with kids. And so everything that we were pressing into and believing and having faith in just really halted and started putting our life back together of like, okay, what does it look like to continue here in Orange County? What God is God calling us? And right after that happened, right after we were really just confronted with, what we were doing, I just started getting so tired. And to the world having a 3 and a 4 and 5-year-old at home, it was like, you just have young kids, this is normal. But I was just so incredibly tired. My mom had to come over and she would raise my kids. She would shower me. She would take care of everything every single day for just day after day after day. For months this started to happen. And all of a sudden this thought of, oh my gosh, am I dying right now, came to mind. And I was remembering as a child how strong that fear was. How many times I would wake up in the middle of the night and just wonder what's going to happen when I die, or where will I go, what am I saved, and all these thoughts would come in the middle of the night of just around death. And I was confronted with that in the midst of me just laying in bed being so exhausted I couldn't even get up. Am I dying? And I remember just feeling that fear just encompass my entire body, and how everything goes back to just that moment when that thought came in of will I die, and how am I going to respond to that thought. And just thinking how a month before I was singing with my kids and we were shouting out that we are fearless, we're going to move our entire life to Argentina, we're going to church plant, we're going to do huge things for God, to just being confronted with my own personal fear. Am I saved? Am I going to die right now? What's going to happen to me? And at that moment, my life just changed so much, and so much sickness just started enveloping in my body, and I just encountered like symptom after symptom after symptom over the months. And I would be in and out of the doctor and be diagnosed with so many things. And then I just walked into the urgent care, and they finally took tests. And I remember that doctor called, and he's like, I do not know what is going on with you, but you're 29 years old and your blood work looks like you're 70 right now. He's like, something major is happening. He's like, but it's beyond what I can even give you help with. And I was just so excited because I'm like, great, I need to go get help. I need to save my life. I need to put this together. I need to figure this out. I need to do this just because, 1, I'm so afraid that I'm going to die, and 2, I want to continue to raise my children. And so I went on a journey, and when you want a witch hunt, you're going to find exactly what you're looking for. And I went hard. I saw every doctor in Orange County. I spent tons of money. I was in so much treatment. And finally, I got an answer that was just so hopeful to me that I had my baby. And it was like this moment of fantastic. That's the answer I wanted. I just wanted to know what I was fighting and what I was battling. And so my whole entire family was uprooted. We all had to move to Nevada. And I took my mom and my dad and my 3 kids, and we moved to Tahoe for 3 months. And my mom would take care of my kids during the day, and she would homeschool them, as my dad drove me down the hill 45 minutes and sat 8 hours every single day for treatment. And I would sit there just with an IV in my arm thinking, I cannot believe this is my life. I'm 30 years old. From the outside, I look incredibly healthy. I am active, but yet I'm sitting here just connected, and this is my life. And just started recognizing, how did I even get here? And that was for 3 months. We sat there living this life, and then we went home, got to go home back home to our house in Mission Viejo, and it just got worse. And I just got sicker and sicker and sicker. And my doctor in Reno called, and he's like, you need to go to Florida. And at this point, I couldn't take my kids, I couldn't uproot my family. And so I decided I would go to Florida by myself, without my husband, without my kids. And my dad was so kind, he drove down to Florida to meet me. And I remember I drove away and to LAX, we call him. And I remember I thought I would never ever see my kids ever again, that I would die in Florida, and that was it. And it was such a hard journey to sit there and see my kids and think I'm never going to see you again because, you know, how sick I was. And so I went and just wanted to fight so hard on my own strength. And I remember just hitting this wall and like, I cannot do this anymore. And I just cried out to God, like, God, please save my life. I will do anything right now. And that was just like the moment where I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I am doing this all on my own, like on my own strength. And I got through 3 months again, away from my husband, away from my kids, and got to go home. But they were like, when you go home, I had now been diagnosed with mold toxicity and all these other things. They're like, you can't even go home. You can't go back to your house. You have to live someplace else. And so I went and I lived with my brother-in-law, and our family was separated, and finally we all just came and lived in this master bedroom together because our house was inhabitable for me. And so we lived there for a year. They lived in a master bedroom closet, and we shared a room, and there were 5 of us in like 300 square feet. And it was such an incredible time. And life just like started to get a routine and just started to become adaptable and started to become like, how can I live within this sickness? How can I maintain a lifestyle to continue moving forward and just raising my kids and just showing up? And I just created this lifestyle within doctor's offices and within treatments and within just a lifestyle that I could handle, that was within my strength, and which included so many limitations on my life and so many things that I couldn't eat or do or walk in, or I couldn't go to like a thrift store because there was maybe dust or mold or whatever it was. There were so many limitations, and this went on for 10 years, and just walking out this life of limitations, and walking out this life of just doctor after doctor after doctor. And I was receiving 3 years ago, I was getting 3 treatments a day, and I was on 60 different medications where I had an Excel sheet that I had to follow every 20 minutes to figure out what I was even supposed to take. And in the middle of the night when I just could not sleep, I must have Googled God healing. And up popped this pastor, teacher, Andrew Womack, and I don't know what compelled me to watch him, except the Holy Spirit now, and I watched him. And I don't remember what video it was, I don't remember what he was talking about, but he just said one statement. He said, God does not put limitations on your life. And I just sat there and thought about that for days, about all the limitations that I had on my life. And I was like, well, God, you want me to live like this. God, you don't want me to be able to eat all these things. Like, that's the healthy thing to do. I shouldn't eat gluten or dairy or sugar or corn or pork. That's even an Old Testament thing. I shouldn't be eating pork. And all these things, and I started unpacking all of these thoughts in my mind that I had set, these limitations and these boundaries in my life that were there because of that fear, that all limitations are just a basis of a fear that you have in your life, that I was so fearful to go beyond those boundaries that I had these limitations in my life because I didn't know what would happen outside of them, and how everything was just surrounded in my life by fear. And so I decided to make the decision to just step out in faith and say, God, if this limitation wasn't from you, what does it look like? And it looked like for me to sit down with my husband and eat a slice of pizza, and to believe God and to say, I bless this slice of pizza, and I'm going to eat it, and I'm going to believe that it won't cause a slew of symptoms in my life tomorrow, and I'm just going to believe it. And so as I ate it for like 15 minutes, I had to just keep saying over and over, this is blessed, this is blessed, this is blessed. And it was such a hard step, but it was just this tiny step forward that God called me to in faith. And then it was stopping at Krispy Kreme's to get a donut with my kids. And then it was drinking the shake that my son had brought home and asked me, Mom, drink this, you can eat anything, just drink this. And having that moment of hesitation, like what's going to happen if I drink it, to then saying, no, I need to step out in faith, and I'm going to bless this, and I'm going to believe God didn't put this limitation on my life. And it was over and over taking these steps of walking that out and believing God that I was able to be set free from that, and how we all have things that are holding us back, whether it's in our finances or our marriage or our friendships or our career or our ministry, that's holding us within a constraint, that's a limitation on our life because we can't believe beyond that boundary that we've set in our heart because of fear, that we don't know what's going to happen outside these walls. And so that's just my journey for 3 years of how I actually walked out, going from one day of living an identity of sickness and in the doctor's offices for hours, day after day after day, and having just the next day taking no medication, never seeing those doctors again, which I sometimes wonder if they thought they offended me or why I didn't show up again. But that it was just cold turkey, just said, I'm going to take a step of faith. And I so wanted a radical miracle. I'm sure like Jason had. I wanted that moment where I fell on the ground and was shaking, and I stood up and was like, something just happened. I am radically healed, because I physically saw it, but there wasn't a physical manifestation. There wasn't a sign or wonder. There wasn't an instant shift. It was slowly taking every single step forward to walking it out and walking out this journey that took a year, but that I know now how to walk on this pathway that I'm so incredibly grateful for. And so I just challenge everybody to look at the limitations, at the walls they have in their life that are there out of fear, because God's calling you to take a step forward. And I love God. He's so hilarious, because inserted into my life 2 years ago was the biggest risk taker I've ever been confronted with my entire life, Casey, whose words would haunt me at night when she would say, well, you know what you need to do now, would haunt me years ago, and I would be like, why, Lord, are you telling me this through Casey? And now it's just like the most exciting adventure when she's like, you know what you need to do? And I'm like, I am so excited to run forward, because I do know what I need to do, and just taking every single step in advancing is just going to get you closer and closer to what God's calling you into. And I am totally healed, and everything was broken, and all of it was just a thought and mindsets and strongholds in my mind that I had created, that my body responded to the thoughts that I had, and my body just responded. And now my cells and every part of my body responds to the truth that is placed in my mind that's there instead. So I get to walk in freedom. I get to walk in the truth. So I just release that on everybody, Father. I pray right now that whatever strongholds are holding us back, Father, that we can recognize them, Lord, and take that step forward, whatever it looks like, Lord, whether it's a small little step forward or if it's a giant big leap. I pray that nothing holds us back, that we will walk forward, we will advance in the fullness of what you have for each and every single one of us in every area of our life, that we will be warriors who continue to advance. Father, I thank you that throughout your word, all you're asking your children to do is to go forward, to keep moving, to press on, to trust you, Father. And I thank you that you are a good Father that covers every single one of our needs, that we can love and turn to, that you are holding our hand and just calling us to go forward with you, Lord. So whatever is holding us back to lifting our foot and just taking that step forward, I pray that it breaks off right now, Lord, that you're speaking to every single person here and showing us where we need to go, what we need to do. And Lord, that you release that wisdom to each one of us right now. And I thank you, Lord, that there are so many blessings in the spiritual realm that will come to pass because we just, in obedience, walk forward. In faith, we take that step. We thank you, Lord. We love you so much. In Jesus' name. Amen.